Well, you know, Kenny, I was just kidding around earlier in the show about saying you always had to be right. Well, kind of, not really. But actually, I really do know somebody. One of the teachers I had this year always had to be right. She taught philosophy, and philosophy is one of those things where, like, there's really no right answer. Like, there's so many answers. And every time I would answer something, she'd be like, no, I don't think so. I'm right. And I'd be like, are you kidding? And so in the end, I just ended up disagreeing with her for the sake of disagreeing because I just couldn't stand it. So I would totally agree with her and just be like, I don't agree with you. No. So what about you guys? Do you know any people who always have to be right?
Well. Hey, no.
In all seriousness, no.
Yeah, that's for sure.
In my life personally, my father always has to be right. His word is law, he is correct, and no matter what I do, because he is the father of the family, he's correct in everything he does.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. My dad is the exact same way, and I will argue every one of his points. I could be right. He could talk about something he has no idea about, and he will try to be right, and I'll be like, no. He said, no.
My English teacher always had to be right, and since when I argue I always have to be right, we have 80-minute blocks of class, and we would argue for about 50 or 60 minutes about one little thing, maybe like how we interpreted the book differently, because nobody would budge on their beliefs or their opinion.
Yeah, I have a teacher that I know that's just like that. If there's like a problem on the board, he'll like have the wrong number down there, and I'll redo it on the calculator and be like, Mister, look at like the calculator. And he'll be like, oh, I guess I made a mistake there, but he'll still say that he was right the whole time.
Well, for me, it's usually my mom, because she always has to be right on everything. Like, we just fight constantly, like, about little things, and she always has to be right, like, all the time.
I'm actually best friends with Kayla's sister. Jessica has absolutely no ability to admit she's wrong. You could have 10 cameras and fingerprints and say, Jessica, you pressed this red button. No, I didn't. So I'll sit there for days, on hours, on months, on years. I went backwards, but still, it's just she will not submit to being wrong.
We need to recognize that in all likelihood, neither of the people who are at odds with one another is totally wrong nor totally right.
If we try and remember that at the onset of a disagreement, we have taken one step forward in resolving, or at least attempting to resolve the difficulty.
Sometimes we may even agree to disagree with someone.
So can you guys share a time when you've agreed to disagree with somebody?
For me, it's my sister. When she always gets in a fight with me, I always just agree with her because I get fed up with like everything she says.
Yeah, like with one of my best friends, like he's that personality, like we're both like we always have to be right, but sometimes with him it could just go on for days. So I'm just like, you know what, whatever, all right, you're right. I'll let you win this time, but it's only like once out of like 100 times that we argue about stuff.
My brother and I, when it usually comes up to questions of faith, we both have completely opposing views, so it gets to the point where it's like, okay, we don't want to argue about this anymore, and we just stop.
I'm like what Vince said earlier in the show, when I'll be arguing with my teacher, I'll just be like, all right, you're right, fine. She'll turn around or go to talk to someone else, and I'll just be like, I was totally right on that.
Well, I know me and one of my best friends, we're both pretty stubborn, and we both have different views on the legalization of abortion. Like, I'm pro-life and she's pro-choice. And neither of us ever budge, like we're best friends, but we just can't seem to come to terms on that one issue. And it's something that I'm passionate about, but I'm not gonna go disrespecting her because she has a different opinion than me. We agree that we disagree.
When I'm in an argument or a disagreement, if I see that the logic that they're trying to convey to me is in fact correct or true, I'll submit, I'll say, you know what, you are right, I was wrong. And I think it's that type of thing that shows character in people.
Next, the teens on the street tell us about times in their life when they've agreed to disagree.
Share a time when you were able to agree to disagree with someone on something.
On a breakup, a good breakup. Smoking, not to smoke.
I had a disagreement with my mom about going to a party. Actually, one time with my friend, we were having an argument going on for like 2 days. Every time we were together, we were just fighting. It was like a stupid argument. We both had our own views on it, and we both believed in our own things. We're two separate people, and we agreed to disagree on the thing.
Have you ever tried to mediate a disagreement between two friends? Of course, I always try.
I do that all the time. I love to help friends out when they're fighting. Actually, I'm doing that today. It's not working so far.
Usually when people disagree where I'm from, they usually try and fight. Basically, I just stand in between because if somebody hits me, they know it's a very wrong thing to do.
I tried to settle an argument with my friends before. It kind of did work out sometimes, but when the other one was too mad, it didn't.
I'll try to change the subject and just move on from it because it's usually not really that worth fighting over.
I guess like you sit them down and you have them talk and you explain to them that friendship's more important than other things.
Kayla also has resolved disagreements by agreeing to disagree.
Her mom is someone who she often agrees to disagree with.
In fact, in the end, she'll usually admit that her mom was right.
Majority of the time, I'm able to agree to disagree because if I feel as though I'm not getting my point across, then there's no point in me wasting my breath trying to get you to understand because you're not willing to understand. Me and my mom, we don't really argue that often. She is a very headstrong person, and so am I. Normally, she's the only person that I can just agree to disagree because I don't want to get angry at her, and I don't want her to stay angry at me. The most common term that's used between me and my mom is I don't see it, and she'll come back with that comment saying, well, you never see it, and you're just gonna see it later. So I'll just be like, okay, Mom, you're correct, you're right. Okay, can we just stop arguing now? Like, if she wants to pick my outfit of clothes, I'll tell her, well, that really doesn't match, or I don't see what you're saying. Like a shirt that has multi-colors in it. And she'll pick the smallest color in the shirt to try and match. And I'm like, Mom, it does not match. And she just refuses to listen. So I just go, Mom, okay. But then when I go to school or I'll go to wherever I go to, everybody be like, oh my gosh, that's so cute. How did you come up with that concept? I'm like, that's my mama, that's my mama that came up with that. My attitude has changed over the years because I am more willing to listen and interpret another person's disagreement or opinion with me. If you're gonna argue with me just to argue, I'm not gonna feed into the negativity. I'm gonna try and be positive or just walk away from the situation.
Have you ever tried to mediate a disagreement between friends?
I have a diverse group of friends. So when we were in a class at one point, something that started as a joke between two of them became more where the disciplinarian had to sort it out, and they wouldn't talk. So I stepped in, not as to pick a side, but to show them, okay, this is very trivial. You're risking your friendship of X amount of years for something as dumb as this. And at the end, they sorted it out. They were fine, whatever, but like, it happens, and it's gonna happen. It's almost inevitable at times.
I hate it when they say, oh, whose side are you on? And I'll just look at them and I'll be like, I don't have a side. I'm just trying to see if I can find a way to get you both to calm down.
Like with my brother and I, when we will argue, I don't want to lose that friendship because, he's my older brother. I want to be able to look up to him and I try to retain the brotherhood that we have. And he's really taught me, because he's like, you need to respect my views and not like pounce on him every time we talk about whatever it is. So I've really learned to accept other people's opinions and realize that it's not just about me.
I have two friends that sometimes when they argue, it escalates into almost a physical fight. So I've had to physically get in and separate both of them, and it's helped me learn that no matter what you're arguing about, it's better to use your words than your fists.
I would have to say I think it's easier to, for me, to stop an argument between myself and a friend other than two of my friends, because I'm the type of person that doesn't like going to sleep knowing that there's someone out there that's like so mad at me, one of my closest friends that's not going to talk to me.
It's important to examine our own attitudes and behaviors when trying to resolve conflicts.
Allow the other person to speak their view without interruption.
Hopefully, the other person will also allow you to do the same.
If you come to the conclusion that you still disagree, validate what the other person has said by telling them you appreciate their thoughts and feelings.
Even though you disagree with them and that you're glad that you both had the discussion.
You may have even learned something about the topic, even though your opinion hasn't changed.
Next, Kayla will give us more advice on how to handle disagreements.